Hey everyone, Guy who's just a torso here. This video is kind of born of circumstance. If you've seen one of my community posts, you'll know what I'm talking about. But essentially, while I am abroad for a little while, I am stuck with this piece of junk behind me. It's not great. This is some kind of Samsung laptop that I've forgotten the model of. I'll put it up on screen. I bought it a couple of years back, and it's been my spare machine for doing anything low-powered or on the go that isn't with my PC, and most importantly, it's with me whenever I travel. And so, while I can't make normal sim racing content with my normal PC, I figured I may as well try with this. However, as we're going to find out, sim racing is really hard when the computer you're trying to use can't actually run the simulators. And so we're going to test what simulators can run on my terrible, terrible laptop. I've chosen 3 simulators for this test. First, we have Assetto Corsa, which is my main simulator for my channel. And then we have Raceroom, which is a partially free simulator with extra viable content that I have ran on this laptop before. And then finally, we have Live for Speed, a very old simulator that is still being updated to this day and is free as a demo and apparently is notorious for being able to run on any terrible potato computer. The simulators I've chose there, also born of circumstance, as those are the only ones I happen to own. So, with that, let's get into the testing.
Okay, our first title is Assetto Corsa. We're at Laguna Seca in the Lotus. I can't remember what the car is. It's the Formula car. It's the Formula car Lotus made. Coming around this first, or I suppose last corner for one of our hot laps that we're doing here. And it's just already not feeling good. We were running at about 25 FPS for most of it, but it dropped as low as 18 at some points. And the worst thing about it was the input lag, which you're going to see some very poor driving from me, which although that's partially down to me being a poor driver, I'm also putting it up to the input lag. We're going off track there or hitting the barrier. It's really uncontrollable because everything happening on screen is happening like a couple milliseconds after you're actually doing it, which is terrible, especially for something as precise as sim racing. This was maybe not enjoyable. I had a specific setting turned on. Obviously, I had all my video settings cranked down, but the setting I had turned on was this kind of anti-aliasing, where it renders the game at 720p, and then it used AI upscaling to put it back to full resolution. And I don't know if that was what was causing the lag, but regardless, it did make it run quicker. Before that setting, it was running at like 17 FPS all around. You can see we're going off of the corkscrew again, more just absolutely terrible shit. Going back onto track, it wasn't that good. It was a bad time. I'm sure it could be playable. Given the right video settings, it could be playable. I have CSP and Content Manager on here, so maybe stock Assetto Corsa would be better. But generally speaking, this just isn't it, man. We're coming around the last corner. I can't even remember the lap time I put down, but it's not really something that matters because we went off the track a million times. So now, let's see what it's like when we are going around the track with other cars on it. And then it's time for our proper race. We have only 4 opponents here, so surely you'd think it would run okay. And at least compared to itself, it does run okay. It ran at about a stable 25 frames per second. Still the same issues pertain, but hey. We also got a terrible start here, going off track, losing all sorts of positions, and so I think it's safe to say that we won't be catching up to any of our opponents. And wow, it is just hard to drive. I already know I kind of nailed that point in, but it is ridiculously hard to sim race if you happen to struggle with input lag. I'm glad this isn't my main sim racing laptop, because to have to forego Assetto Corsa is terrible. I really can't recommend Assetto Corsa as a sim racing game for low-end PCs because of this. Unless there's some kind of setting that I've missed, I really don't know if it's going to work. And it's just another off track, this time at the corkscrew. It keeps happening. Got myself a 10-second penalty because of it. Coming around the last bend, far off the rest of the pack. Assetto Corsa, as much as it is an amazing simulator, seems to not be great on such a terrible machine. And that is the end of the race. Now on to Raceroom. Okay, so next game, Raceroom. And the first thing I noticed while coming down the main straight at Portimao is that it feels a lot better. We're in the Formula Junior car, and there's just such a noticeable difference in input delay and lag. This is running at, I'm not sure how much FPS, but point is, it's smooth, and it's not running with any delay. I did go off track there, and unfortunately, because of those amazing things, that off track is all my fault. I can't really blame the input delay for any poor driving scene here, but we're going for a hot lap anyways. We're to see how we do. Raceroom recently had an update with a bunch of graphical improvements, and that really does come through with this. It's not that realistic. It still looks a little bit bad, if I'm being honest, but it isn't terrible either. I'd compare it to about something like the iRacing graphics. Things look a little bit flat and just a little bit low poly and kind of but it's not terrible, and there's new lighting and sky, and so it's all right. And the hot lap went all right as well. I mean, of course, we had that off track at the start, so it doesn't like count as being valid, but it's fine for the most part. I'm really pleasantly surprised at how well Raceroom runs, because Raceroom really is like a proper simulator. It's not some silly game. It's not like it doesn't come with any content. It's free as well. Well, kind of free. You get some free content off the bat, namely a couple circuits and a couple cars, and then it's like the iRacing system where you have to buy the other ones individually. It just doesn't have the subscription element of iRacing, so it could be more appealing to those that don't want to pay as much. It also has some like multiplayer systems and stuff, and it's pretty good AI racing, so maybe check it out. I've always been kind of fond of Raceroom as a simulator. I've kind of enjoyed it. But hey, coming down to the last couple of turners at Portimao, and it's going pretty well. I'm excited to see the race with all of the other cars and see how that runs, and to see how the AI kind of behave, generally speaking. And so now, coming down this long straight, pleasantly surprised, decent performance, and I can't remember the lap time, but again, it doesn't really matter. It probably says it on screen there. All right, on to the proper race, and to be honest, I am pretty excited for this. We've got 20 total cars on track, way more than Assetto Corsa, and it seems to still be running smooth. And it's lights out, and away we go. We are in 6th position, I believe, and I do have the AI set to a pretty low level, so we will see what we can do. The one thing I really don't like about Raceroom, and it is something that I would love for the developers to consider, is to add a radar in. Because you just can't see the cars. I can't see the cars next to me. It's really scary. So if you see me driving poorly, that's why. Or at least driving unsportsmanlike. Couple cars in front of us, getting overtaking, doing overtakes. It's actual racing. This is completely good for a laptop. This suffices. This more than suffices, in fact. I enjoyed recording this little segment just because the racing was good. The driving was good. It was a much change of pace from Assetto Corsa, and I'm really curious on what Live for Speed does, given how well this runs. We're getting up close, racing and stuff. I mean, I really couldn't ask for more. If Raceroom had more content that was free, this could be my main sim. Now, I could also pay for some of the content. Honestly, I'd be totally down, especially with the new updates. Maybe I will. If you'd like to see me do some more Raceroom, then comment down below. I think I can maybe record some of it. Could be fun. Coming down to this weird corner at Portimao, I still don't know how the hell you're supposed to take that. No matter what the car is, I always get a little confused. But when it's going well, we're in 1st place right now. There is a car on our nose, or sorry, our tail. Going down the second to last corner, the AI is looking, but not there. Now here's alongside, and just final corner, getting it done, 1st place. That's a damn good result and some damn good fun for a little one-lap race around Portimao. If you have a low-end PC, Raceroom is absolutely for you. Now, next game. Okay, on to Live for Speed, and it looks okay, and it performs really well. This is a really old sim racing game. In fact, one of the first to really get popular. Former Formula 1 drivers used to race on this. and it performs great. It does drive a little odd, although I think that does just come down to the car. The feeling of loss of downforce and grip is very, very sudden, and so sometimes the back end just steps out in places you wouldn't expect, and so I might not be very good at driving this. But we're at Blackwood, which is the first track in the game, driving some kind of BMW formula car. I am running the demo version of the game, but there's multiple paid versions that are more and more expensive that give you more and more content. And it's pretty all right. Now, what I will say is that Live for Speed probably isn't going to be the simulator for you if you're looking for something free. It only comes with one track when you have the free demo, which is fair. It's a demo. That's what it is. This game does actually have modding support in the form of cars. There aren't any track mods per se, but there are kind of like weird course things you can do. It's kind of hard to describe. But I mean, this runs really well. Hard to drive? Yes, but it still drives. There's some slower cars and, well, I've just proven the point on hard to drive, spinning out, going off track, and I seem to kind of just give up my hot lap here. But hey, damn good time. Performs pretty great. Let's get on to the race. All right, time for the race. I'm squirming around in my chair here for some weird reason, but I clearly wasn't ready for the start. Lights out and away we go. The AI absolutely smoked me. I do have them on the easy setting though, so we'll see if I can catch back up. And it's running just fine. We've got a good couple of AI on here. 11 other opponents to be exact. And they aren't very good at driving because I have them on the easy difficulty. If you have them on the hard difficulty, it gets, well, harder and it's just fine. But here you can see I'm overtaking them with ease, if not a little bit of contact. But it runs okay. I'm not going to go and pretend like Live for Speed is visually impressive or anything, but it is absolutely serviceable. It runs smooth, no input lag, no normal lag. The AI are okay. I'm not going to pretend they're amazing again, but they're pretty all right. If they seem a little bit stupid, that's because they are, especially when they're on the beginner difficulty, as I have it here. But they absolutely can be decently quick and serve for good competition otherwise. And so, despite me having a piece of crap machine, this game was kind of made to run on piece of crap machines because it's so old. And it's still being updated today, so it's not like it's not being supported. It's not like it's abandonware. And developers are still doing stuff with it, which is really amazing to see. And as we come to the end of our little one-lap race, I really do urge you to try this out. Along with Raceroom, again, you can get the demo for free, as I said. And it's like, it doesn't take up any space. Just try it out. Coming across the line, we are 4th place. And that concludes our tests. Now, on to the conclusion. So, to conclude, Assetto Corsa ran poorly. It could run well potentially with enough fiddling around with settings, but I'm not really sure. And frankly, if I think you have to downgrade a game that much in the settings, it really isn't worth it. Call me crazy? Now, if you have Raceroom, that's a great pick for low-end computers. It can still do all of the physics, can still do all of the sim racing stuff. The graphics aren't amazing, but it runs really, really well, and there's a great diversity in content. Live for Speed, less diversity in content, especially with the cheaper versions of the game, but runs amazingly and is really good as a way to try out sim racing, especially on low-end computers, given that it is free, takes up very little space, and generally is kind of easy to get into. Very, very simple. With that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.